Well, everybody, welcome to Tanked Up, a podcast about video games and beer. It's episode 251. I'm one of your hosts, Ben, here with Lucy.
You're the real host here, Ben.
I just do the intro,
One
mate.
of
The intro and the outro, that's it.
You keep things on the rails.
Occasionally. And joining us, a man who occasionally takes things off the rails, Aadil. Hey.
Occasionally. That's very kind of you. I feel like that's my unwritten role as the derailer.
The derailer, I like it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you have to change
Not
your...
just another bicycle part.
Yeah, you have to change your handle on everything now to be the derailer.
Also a bicycle part.
I like that, the
Very
derailer.
good.
It's got like a very 80s
I could keep
action
going. I might
movie.
break it.
It's got a very 80s action movie vibe. The derailer.
The
Yeah.
derailer.
Coming next summer. The
Yeah.
derailer.
And we're already off on whatever we're talking about. Good. We are a podcast. We drink beers. We talk about video games. If you've never listened to us before, welcome. Hi. How have you found us? Come and chat to us in various different ways. We'll talk about all of that later. But for now, we're going to open some beers. I might start this week. I rarely open a beer, but I've been kind of itching since the little one went down. What? Oh,
No,
yes, all right, yeah, fair. So I'm gonna open a beer rather than waiting for everybody else. I'm going to start with a beer from Duration called Sweeping Coast. There's flavour text. It is 4.8%. They say, if you're fond of sand dunes and salty air, consider Norfolk. Sweeping coastlines that define the region as much as the vast skies, instantly recognisable. Our coastal dunes perpetually shift with each tide, gently changing the landscape in a state of continual variation. Sweeping Coast is resinous, bright and fresh, yet subtly undulating on a journey, one that is always set to home. It has got... The yeast is the house blend yeast. It's got Mosaic, Azaka and Centennial in, and malted barley and wheat. That is everything. I did try and look, because this is one of the beers I picked up from Beer 52, from doing an online order rather than their standard subscription box, because I had lots of points, so I got some money off. Both beers actually are from that order. But on all of them, they had about, say, like 6 to 8 months left on their kind of best before dates. So I don't know if a lot of them have already been in the wild for sort of 6 or so months. Fortunately, the Duration doesn't have any date on it anywhere that I can see. I don't want to turn it out too much. So who knows?
Forever young. Always good.
Maybe. We will see. Aadil, we'll come to you next. What have you got?
I have this beer. It is another one from Kaiju Beer.
Ooh.
It is the Metamorphosis India Pale Ale, 6.7%. After being crushed to goo at the hands of the Mecha-Garganodon. Screwed up that reading. Take 2. After being crushed to goo at the hands of the Mecha-Garganodon, this mysterious beastie plots future devastation from within the hop cocoon. Will its malty photosynthate provide sweet relief from the bitter lupulin coursing through its xylem and phloem? Phloem? I got that wrong.
GCSE biology and
Yeah.
not tired.
Too clever, beer. Too clever for me.
Great.
That's fair.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to 6.7. I like how it had all that, and it's like, I don't know what hop is in this. Some sort of phloem, I guess. Phloem hop.
So something from a plant. The cytoplasm.
Yeah,
yummy.
so it is.
All the chlorophyll.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are no ingredients. Except that it's 2 standard drinks, and it's a product of Australia.
Okay.
Fair.
Australia, mate.
Nice little hop cocoon, though, on the tin. I like it.
Well, I like him.
Lucy, what have you got this week? What are you starting with?
I'm starting. Well, I've got 2 pails, so
Mhm.
starting with the one of the lower ABV, and this is a beer called Here Now You. All right. You now here, backwards. Here Now You. and it is from Free Hills Brewing. 5.2%. There's a little bit of flavour text. It says, this session pale is designed to be, I like this, designed to be an everyday drinking beer. Yes, I don't mind drinking every day, so yeah. Well balanced with hints of grapefruit and pine. It can be a go-to forever. It can be a go-to for every occasion. So.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I haven't had many of Free Hills. I put in an order a few weeks ago, and what was this? No, this was from last week from a local beer delivery place, and I was like, I haven't had much Free Hills. I'll try them out. Had a really nice double IPA over the weekend, which was good. So high hopes for this one.
Nice. I know they've just done a sort of a stout series. I think the same base, but with lots of different adjuncts and things within each different type, I believe. I saw a few of them when I was browsing the bottle shop, their online page today. Didn't pick any up, but I haven't been in the mood for stouts recently, so I missed out on that one. But yeah,
getting a bit warmer.
A little.
Shiny.
I mean, apart from the snow at the weekend or last week, whenever it was, and then rain for days. But anyway, let's talk about nice beers. I don't think I told you what the style of this one was. It is a West Coast pale ale, Sweeping Coast. And it has a very, very light citrusy, a little bit of pine on the nose, not a huge amount. It's pretty, not hazy. It's got a little bit of, it's a bit opaque. Don't know if you can't really see anything behind it. It's a pretty solid kind of colour, but very light, a little yellowy. But it's an easy one to drink. Nose and the flavour match pretty well. Getting a little bit of a citrus hit straight off. Maybe a bit more lemony in there, but again, another little kind of tropical fruit, maybe just in the background as well. It's not just the lemony flavour. There is an extra little fruity sort of sweetness going on in there as well. But the bitterness, very, very light, very mild bitterness, that comes in quite quickly and then leads you into that piney finish, which is sort of what sticks around. There's this sort of lemony, almost a fragrant lemony flavour to it as well, which I think is maybe just where it combines with that piney note, just to leave you with something that's maybe a little bit more fragrant than when you actually drink it. But this has dried me out almost instantly, and I just have to keep drinking.
Very dry then.
Very, very dry. I mean, good, nice flavours, flow quite well, but it's dry already. 5-6 seconds, and I'm kind of reaching for it. It is quite refreshing when you have that initial sip. It is a nice sort of refreshing flavour. I think a lot of that is down to the citrus, perhaps, but instantly dry and wanting to reach for it again, which is fine. It's a nice flavour. But there's not much more to say about it, really, with that. So we'll come back to you, Aadil.
Hey, it's me.
Hope so.
So it's lightly citrusy, maybe a touch tropical on the nose. It's this nice, very quite clear for an IPA. Let me see if I can get the lighting in. Yeah, like you can see, kind of my eye from.
Looks like classic IPA colour there.
Yeah, so a little orangey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's got a little bit of a piney hop, but mostly just sort of a citrus, slightly tropical nose. The finish is almost a little wet. And then but The hops are giving quite a strong bitterness. So when the actual like mouthfeel leaves you wet, when those tropical and citrus flavors sort of start to recede, you're like, oh yeah, there's just this low level bitterness that's just sticking around. Not really piney.
Okay.
It's really easy to drink. Also, a touch of maltiness in that finish that I think is helping flatten it out and making sure it doesn't just taste as like, oh yes, now you are bitter. It's sort of making me want to drink again just because so it's not drawing my mouth out, but as there's a slight sweetness and like I said, the sort of more citrus and fruity notes recede. There's this underlying bitterness, which already 3-4 sips in, I'm getting used to, but the first few sips were quite quick because it was like, and there's that bitterness. Let me just cover it up with that other stuff. Let me go back to the well. But having said that, this last sip, my palate must have just gotten used to it because it's still there, but sort of more receded. Also, that slight maltiness is sort of disappearing on me, which is unfortunate because it was helping round out the taste, but it's kind of also... So I think like these two tastes were interesting, maybe not well balanced, but now they're sort of faded totally into my palate, and I'm not really noticing them. It's so wet. I'm surprised at 6.7% because it tastes quite light in that respect, just because of that mouthfeel, just because of that thinness to the liquid, which kind of makes it a little dangerous. Because you could just pound through 6% thinking it's 4 quite easily. Yeah, like I said, that finish being slightly sweet and then having this bitter but like low-level bitterness throughout that you can get used to is interesting. I wish the fruit stuck a lot around for a bit more. It's very much a front-loaded taste, or more than half of the things going on are in the first sort of few seconds. And then as things recede, they like the tropicaliness, the citrusness, and even that touch of floral that was on the nose is all kind of pretty gone. But there's still a finish going on. It's not like the taste. It's not like a quick tasting beer. It's this part's quick and this other stuff sort of lingers, which is interesting. Like I said, mildly disappointed that the more dynamic stuff is quite quick.
Yeah.
But we'll see, because I mean, after 3 sips, I had done almost a 180 on what I was coming out of it. So maybe the rest will balance out on my palate by the end.
That's fair. See how it evolves, how your palate sort of takes to it a little bit. And Lucy, we'll come to you.
Yeah, mine's it's like in the nicest way, dirty pond water. It's completely opaque. Sort of got a light brownish, not quite ambery colour, somewhere between yellow and brown. Pond water.
Fair.
When I first cracked the can, it had a lovely aroma. I think that's dissipated a bit, so I'll pour a little bit more into the can. Yeah, some nice tropical fruit notes on the smell. Yeah, not too much, just a faint bit of tropical fruit, but it's nice.
We've all started off with quite light beers today, haven't we?
6.7.
Okay, not too light. Light for us. Light
for me last week.
It's light. It is like you did. It's got a very wet finish. It's quite thin in texture. Slightly watery. Yeah, you're not getting too much bitterness. The bitterness is there, but it hasn't quite got that like bite to its bitterness that it sort of suggests it's going to. It sort of like fades into that kind of watery, thin texture. There's not as much fruit. I mean, probably the lack of tropical fruits on the nose, just that faint hint that carries through into the taste. There's not too much fruit in the taste. Bit of maltiness. I'd say it's probably the malt that I'm getting most of.
Okay.
Mostly malt, a little bit of bitterness, not too much fruit. I wouldn't call this a beer that I'd have every day. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not enamored with it. Got a little, I think it's mostly the bitterness and bit of maltiness, maybe a little bit of earthiness as well. That's just creeping through on the back end, but there's not a lot to it. Like, not too enthralled with this one. It's not flattening me. It's not something I'd drink every day. I probably wouldn't go for this again. It's like, oh, I just want a pale. It's like, probably won't go for this. Probably go for something. What I think. This is a bit of a harsh comparison, but what Steady Rolling Man is like 5.2%. So it's like, probably just go for that. I don't think it's balanced that well. It's mostly just like that bitterness is like creeping up more and more now. So it's just like more of an overwhelmingly bitter taste at the end, and it's not really bringing much else to the table. So a bit disappointed with that one.
Okay. How did you find the Dipper at the weekend?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was really good. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but I think it was 9%. Yeah, it was really well balanced. It was like the opposite to this. It was like fruity. It didn't taste. It had that slight alcohol burn, but it didn't taste like a 9% beer. It was, it was really good. Really juicy. Really tropical.
Nice.
It was good. But yeah, I think I have another beer from Free Hills downstairs. So we'll see where that lands.
You have to let us know.
Probably right in the middle.
It might not last the week to make an appearance on the podcast. You'll have to let us know what it's like. Good. Let's enjoy these beers. Enjoy them as much as we can. Drink them and discuss what we want to discuss. And I think, I don't know whether I have to open this week, but
go for it.
Depending on what everyone else has got to talk about. But I haven't played a huge amount. We only recorded sort of towards the end of last week, so it's only been about 5 days since we last chatted. So I've only been sort of filling in on a little, a few bits really. So I thought perhaps we could talk about The Last of Us, not the game, but the HBO TV series. It was the slated HBO TV series, which recently announced that Pedro Pascal was going to be Joel, and the actress's name is gone from my head. Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones. What's she called? Someone do a quick Google for me, so I don't sound like a complete
doing it
twat.
Now.
Like I know.
For fuck's sake, the BBC News. Fuck, this is so kind of sexist. Says the BBC News 5 days ago report is The Last of Us on HBO. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey join cast. Isn't Bella Ramsey the name of the character, or have I got that one wrong?
Nope.
Because there's Ramseys in that.
Bella Ramsey is the name of the actress. I'm getting it wrong. So I did know what she's called. There we go. What's she called?
Is there a Ramsey family in Game of Thrones?
There is a Ramsey family in Game of Thrones. That's what's throwing me off.
Yeah, that's why I got confused.
All right. Okay.
God damn all these English people and their names all being the same.
Oh dear.
Oh well, I look like even more of a twat now, don't I? Anyway.
Me too, though. I went out there and yelled at the BBC for doing the news correctly.
I mean, you can yell at the BBC for lots of other things.
Girl plays girl in girl video game about girl and Pedro Pascal.
Yes, but I thought perhaps we could just chat about whether it's something that we'll watch, what we think they might take from the games, and I've come up with some other people that I think might be good fits for the cast, because when this was announced, I mean, I didn't see Pedro Pascal being picked for Joel at all. So I thought, why not give some completely poor choices? Because I'm in no way a casting director, and I'm going to show that this evening.
Excellent.
But to start off with, Lucy, you have played The Last of Us. You played The Last of Us 2, games that you very much enjoy. Are you interested at all in the HBO TV series?
I know. I was like, when I saw that you wanted to talk about this, I was like, God. Thank God it's Ben, because I'll listen to Ben if anyone else asks me. Or you, Aadil.
I've never played the games, so I can't.
Yeah, I would say from you, but I was just like, at least it's Ben, and I care about his opinion and what he has to say. Because if it was somebody else, I would have thrown my computer out the window and be like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm busy tonight. Sorry, I don't think we'll do that.
Washing my hair.
Is there anything they could do to pull you in?
There's literally nothing.
That's fair.
Like, not to say that you can't adapt a property. I'm sure there's many examples of cross media that I enjoy, but
like the Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters the game and the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters. Luigi's Mansion, an homage to the Ghostbusters.
I mean, it can be done, like, and there's many things that I have enjoyed, like, different takes on, but, like, look at the Batman games, I probably prefer them to the games more than to most other media where Batman's been produced. Like, I like the animated series, to be fair, but so it's possible, but I just don't care about what they do in the film, and it's like I'm attached to those characters, not Pedro and Bella.
Yeah.
So it's not that it can't be done, but it's I just don't have that emotional investment.
Yeah.
Cast Troy and gosh, what's their name? Now I'm blanking on
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson, yeah. Cast them. But then I just have the game already, so
yeah. I mean, exactly, yeah.
That's sort of the thing that I wonder about, but also I think too many people are too severe about. So not casting wise, but just the idea of making it. Like, why bother? The game exists, and it's because, well, the story can be accessed by people who don't play games, and I think that's a good thing. Narratives, like rehashing the same narrative 7 Ways to Sunday. Like, do we need another Batman origin story ever in like cinema, for example? Maybe not, but also maybe. I think when it's at the when it's at the expense of other things, that sucks. But
sure.
I think people are really quick to be like, the game exists, people should play the game.
I don't agree with that. Like, but experience media how you enjoy it. Like,
but I mean, but also that means that you could never want to see this, and that's okay because it might not really be for you. But then who is it for? Hopefully, people who might like it, but it sort of depends on how marketing goes, right? Like,
because a lot of people jumped on that Witcher show because they played the game, so and it has nothing. Well, the plot.
I know it was good.
It was.
It was good, and so I know people who never played the game who were really into it, who like just don't play video games, but like it's that new Netflix series, and I think that's the power of like HBO Max and Netflix and Amazon Prime now is people will try new series from them because they have track records, right? Although HBO Max might lose that track record with Zack Snyder's The Justice League Black and White edition, which is a real thing that's separate from the 4-hour recut of the Justice League. Anyway, that's a Geek Out Weekly topic.
I enjoyed the Castlevania Netflix series.
The animated one, yeah.
Well, like anime, yeah. I really liked it as well. I thought it was a really cool way of telling that type of story. But like having not played the game, I will say my 2 cents as, wow, are people opinionated about people not looking like video game characters when they don't understand that people are people? Just like the amount of weird, angry, this doesn't look like
really?
character that showed up on Twitter and stuff. It's like, what do you think? How do you think? Also, so you just reminded me that when you're like, oh, just cast the voice actors because they're also actors. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. These people would somehow still be mad because they didn't look like the sprite. Sorry, I realized I went on a tangent before that, but it's like, this is just, yeah, sure. Even if they don't act the way the game character acted, that's the whole point. If you wanted the same thing, then you should just watch a compilation of cutscenes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
that
an
exists.
adaptation. Like, come on, you can adapt anything to. You know, Ellie could be a shark, and Joel could be Daddy Shark. I mean,
That's true.
It could be Finding Nemo fruit.
Fighting off hordes of orca coming towards them constantly.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just... I can't speak to the actors because I think is Pedro
Fuck
Pascal.
Me.
Did you spill your beer?
Oh, massively.
Oh no.
Not on the computer.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll put myself on mute.
Right. I can't speak to the actors. I never seen Bella Ramsey in anything to my knowledge. And is Pedro Pascal? Is he in Narcos?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might be one of the only things I've seen him in. So I can't speak to either of them as actors, actresses. So. I'm sure they do, decent job. Depends all on the direction that they're given as well. So
yeah, absolutely. It'd be interesting to see who from, say, Naughty Dog is brought in, whether sort of like Troy and Ashley are brought in as well to not like coach, but to just provide sort of their take, or whether this is going to be a completely separate adaptation. I'm assuming Neil Druckmann. He is involved, and I would think that other people from Naughty Dog will be involved in some capacity. But it'd be interesting to see the different sort of way they take this. And with that, it'd be interesting to see whether they follow the same sort of storyline all the way through. I know it's sort of been reported that this will, at least this series, will cover the first game. So
really?
They're not trying to extend it out too much. How long was The Last of Us? Perhaps 12 to 15 hours if you took your time and died a lot. 12 to 15 hours roughly. So HBO, you're probably looking at maybe an 8, 9 or 10 episode show, 50 minutes an episode. So you've got a lot in there. There's a lot in the story and in the game, kind of cutscene wise, because a lot of that game is moving through environments and stealth and action kind of gameplay that will still be present within that show, but will obviously be a lot quicker and shot quicker. Something that might take you 5 minutes to get through will be a 2-minute sequence in a show. So they can delve a little bit more into the characters and sort of the background and things like that, which is interesting to see how they flesh these characters out that little bit more, because we're good on, like, say, Joel and Ellie and a couple of characters like Tommy and Maria who come in the second game and we see a bit more of and get to experience their character. But there's like characters like Tess and Bill and stuff who have a big impact but quite a small presence kind of within the game. So it'd be good to see how they flesh those characters out a bit and actually what they take through, because there's stuff that I could easily see being cut, but I don't think I'd want anything to be cut from that first game. It's such a good kind of set of beats to take you through that story and the relationship between Joel and Ellie and the relationship with other people and the world around them and stuff. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that they should absolutely hit. Go on.
Yeah, carry on.
I was going to ask, is there anything you can see that you could completely ignore from that first game, or do you think that again it needs to kind of all be explored?
Well, that's a tough thing about this, because it's like them saying that they're going to put the entire game in the first series. that just reeks of, are we going to get cancelled before the second series? You know,
Sure.
it is going to be a long-running thing. And I'm the complete opposite in that sense to you, Ben, because it's like, I don't want any of those gaps filled. I don't need to see Bill's backstory. I don't need to see Tessa's backstory. What's in the game is implied, and you're just given enough. And it's like the ending of the game. It's like you come to your own conclusions. What happened after, and obviously the second game, you know, retroactively tells you what happened. But that's by the way. But yeah, I just don't. I don't want any part of this in a way. It's just like, I'm put in what you want, leave out what you want. It's like they could tell Ish's story or something and just be like, okay, they could do like, oh, you know, this you know, fills with flashbacks and make it, you know, really really on the nose. But I just think that what's great about that game is like the subtlety in it. Just having that all laid bare in a HBO series is not what I'd want, but I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. It's like, I think Neil being on board probably gives me some hope that it might have some quality to it. But like, yeah, do what you want.
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
Dude, I'm sorry, I'm useless on this conversation.
I mean, it's not
I just want to be the best for you. I just want to be an empty room where your ideas bounce off the walls, and that's.
Well, I was going to say, it's not necessarily the backstory of kind of the characters. It's more just the kind of the relationship that some of them have, like Tess or Marlene and stuff like that they have with Joel, and you know, we have moments in through The Last of Us. So when Joel and Ellie meet Henry and Sam, it, you know, feels like that is its own contained little area within The Last of Us, and you can see how that might be an episode of the TV show, you know, something like that. It's kind of already cut up into these kind of, not chapters, but I suppose areas at least, as you were on this kind of like road trip across the states with Joel and Ellie in the game. So I can see how they could adapt it, but again, there's lots of stuff that I think is kind of is needed from the game. I don't think there's much that they could kind of take out, and it had me sort of thinking, well, if they can't really cut anything, and they're expanding a little bit on, you know, it's not going to be kind of like scene for scene dialogue exactly the same. So some of those conversations can be a little bit more extended. Some of those interchanges can be different or can not happen at all. You know, they can slightly change the relationship and things. So I started to think about all of the actors and people that I thought I would like to see in this show. A lot of people, myself included, had thought that maybe for Joel you could get what's his face, Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones, Nicola Costa Waldja, something like that. I'm just gonna butcher people's names tonight. It's fine.
Okay, I threw a beer at a television.
You know what? It's HBO, isn't it? Yeah, just get everyone from Westworld.
It is. I mean, exactly. And I'd imagine that
throw that mechanical horse in there as well. Yeah, just do it all, man.
We're going to be getting a lot of like HBO actors. Not necessarily just HBO, but kind of like TV level, prestige TV actors that are kind of going to be in this. But then a lot of characters which can be newcomers. You know, Bella Ramsey is more of an established actress with Game of Thrones, and she was also in something that Kim watched, The Dark Materials, which is based on some novels. Yeah. Dark Materials. She was in that for a few episodes as well. So, you know, she's in a reasonable amount of stuff. But I can also see some of the smaller characters like Sam. You know, a young lad being someone that we have never seen before, being an unknown kind of actor come in. But I just sort of fleshed out a few of the characters, and I had in my mind it wasn't necessarily people that looked like the characters, but I thought it was people that could play those characters but had a resemblance as well. We know that with Pedro they're not afraid to kind of not change it up completely, but just swing things a little bit, and change it very slightly. So I'll roll through and I'll give you time to type so you can find out who these people are. But some of them will be instantly recognizable. So for Tommy, I went with Josh Holloway, who is Sawyer from Lost.
Oh, he does look similar.
He does look similar, but
how has he aged since Lost?
I have no idea. I have no idea how he's aged since Lost. But
that was like a decade ago, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. So he's got to be, late 40s, maybe early 50s, which is roughly, Joel and Tommy are what? Maybe, again, mid 40s in the game. I don't know. I can never remember who the older brother is between them.
He's 51 and he looks the Hollywood version of 51, so he looks
amazing.
35.
Yeah, 12. So yeah, I mean, I like Lost. Sawyer was probably my favourite character from Lost, and I thought he could play Tommy quite well. Tommy isn't a huge character in the first game. He comes in maybe halfway through roughly, and is there to offer them a bit of respite on their journey. So whilst they could bring in someone who's a bit of a bigger TV name, I haven't seen Josh Holloway in very much recently. I don't know how, at least in the kind of the geeky sort of sphere of HBO and Netflix shows and that sort of thing. So I think he'd be my pick for Tommy. Maybe a little bit older than Joel, and again, I don't know, I can't remember who is the older brother in the game, but I don't think for the show that really matters. Joel's the older one. Okay. So maybe you need to find someone who can defer a little bit more to Pedro Pascal in terms of, not maybe their sort of like stature, but is just a little bit more giving in terms of their kind of like communication.
Tommy older brother. I mean,
exactly. They could. And that leads me. Oh, he's going. The cat's shouting at the door. There you go, Dorian. It's okay. You can leave.
What a prince.
He actually left as well. He didn't just stand at the door and scream, even though it was open. So, the next character, again, a lot of these characters only appear for a very small amount of time. Like this story is about Joel and Ellie, and they are the main sort of obviously the main characters, but it all revolves around them, and everyone else is kind of supporting at different points in their journey. But I went with Marlene next, and I instantly thought of Viola Davis, who's I can't remember the character's name. She's in Suicide Squad. She's in lots of stuff. But she's a little bit older.
Yeah. I mean,
I thought,
could make it,
exactly. With Marlene as well, again, she's not an action-heavy character in the first game. She is the leader of the Fireflies, so she's a kind of like a large figure in the world, or within the fiction. So it could be someone who is a little bit older. But
is Viola Davis HBO affiliated?
I don't know.
Tessa
sure.
Thompson is, but I don't know if she'd make a good.
Bit younger. Yeah. Bit younger. I also did think of Jada Pinkett Smith as well for that role.
I don't know what she does nowadays.
But who knows where she is? Partying in Matrix, things. They're remaking the Matrix, aren't they, and getting in trouble for parties. Maybe she's doing that. Who knows?
I don't even know if she probably is. She's probably in some random TV show that airs in America or something.
More than likely. Who knows? But yeah, I thought she might be quite a good fit for it as well. And that kind of gives you someone who, can appear a little bit younger, someone who can appear a little bit older, dependent on how they want to sort of sway that character, whether they're going to be giving some of these characters a little bit of extended sort of screen time in terms of what they're going to be doing as well. Is Marlene going to be shown doing some action sort of things, being the leader of the Fireflies and that kind of thing? Who was next? So, Tess. I did go with someone HBO affiliated for this one. I went with Evan Rachel Wood, who's Dolores from Westworld.
I didn't know she was in Westworld.
Yes, she's also in Frozen 2. But I thought she'd be quite good for Tess. She can do, at least shown in Westworld, she can do action, but also she can show her sort of like softer side and stuff. Dolores is a character in Westworld which just like bounces all over the shop in kind of that character's arc. So I
don't know. She probably because she's like an android, but she looks too well put together. Whereas Tess looks like she's rough and ready for a fight all the time.
She does.
Just throw some dirt on her and it'll work.
Just smear her up a little bit. Dye her hair black or something. Just make it really scraggly. Yeah. Or I did have Stephanie Beatrice, who is Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well.
Oh, she's great.
Comedy role.
I don't know who the character is, but I like the actress.
Yeah. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine, fine, bit more of a comedy kind of show. Again, haven't seen her in a huge amount else. But I thought
about Tina Fey. Come on, Ben, I'm the casting director here.
Okay, sure. I mean, she'd bring the comedy aspect too, no doubt. So that's, not really present in The Last of Us, but they could show their acting chops, can't they? Getting all dramatic and actiony and angry at everyone all the time.
Sigourney Weaver, how about her? She's a bit old.
She's probably busy. I think she likes to play characters which don't do very much now. So, maybe not Tess so much. But we'll move on quite quickly for Bill, because I think they're going to put Bill in. He's a nice little kind of like side bit, a little bit of respite for Joel and Ellie on their journey, whilst also being an action-heavy kind of area, but within the character himself. But I thought of a guy called Mark Boone Jr., who is Bobby from Sons of Anarchy, Bobby Elvis, and he's Ranzar, which I didn't know the character's name, from The Mandalorian, so he's already got a connection with Pedro Pascal from that. Ranzar is the guy who hires the Mandalorian to break the other character out of prison. So he is the slightly larger, very messy-haired, biker-looking guy, as he is in Sons of Anarchy.
What have I seen him?
He's also been in a lot of stuff, like lots of smaller roles in bigger things as well.
I'm looking at his filmography. Do I recognise him from?
Take it in. I think he could do a good Bill. He, ranges on, at least on from what I've seen him in the most, which is Sons of Anarchy, someone who can go from that just very volatile, snappy kind of guy to someone who is a little bit more caring and shows their sort of softer side, which you don't see from Bill in the game, but through the exposition that he has.
Fast and Furious too.
Oh, he's in Fast and Furious.
He's a guy who gets the rat put on his stomach and the bucket with the champagne.
I don't remember. You mean Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yes. Yeah. I watched that recently, so that's why. I was like, he's familiar.
I haven't seen that one in a long time.
It's okay.
Was he alright in it?
That ones are good.
Yeah. Could he be Bill in The Last of Us?
Yes, absolutely.
Good. So I've only got two more. David and Henry. So for David, I went for possibly out of my list, this is possibly the biggest actor. I went with Josh Brolin, right?
Is David the I don't want to spoil it for Aadil. One that's voiced by
David is the Nolan
I can
North
take my
voiced
earphones
character.
out.
No, it's okay. You're all right. We won't
Nolan North
spoil it.
character,
The Nolan
yeah.
North voiced character, yes.
Yes.
So for David, I went with Josh Brolin. He can be a very, very, very intimidating actor, but he can also play dumb very fucking well and string
Josh
people
Brolin
along.
Joel, though, I thought.
Well, so they did have Josh Brolin picked for Joel. A lot of people, but again, he's a little bit older now, maybe a little bit too kind of grizzled. But to be the leader of a kind of a survivalist style community, I thought he could do quite well. And as someone who it kind of suckers Ellie in almost, have that little bit of charm about him. I think he shows that well as Llewellyn in kind of No Country for Old Men. He has this kind of sort of these smarts to him, but also just this kind of stupidity on a level of being like, I'm just going to kind of do this anyway. Like, fuck it. I know stuff's going to go bad. I'm just going to go and do it no matter what. It doesn't matter. So
I think, was his name Josh Sawyer? What was the Tommy guy called?
Oh, Josh Holloway. Sawyer from Lost.
Yes, he should be David.
He could be David, yeah. I don't know. I think maybe he's a bit too. I haven't quite seen that sort of smarmy sort of charm side from him. He's a bit too good looking, I think. A bit too good looking for David.
Hollywood dirt on him. So.
There's a lot of Hollywood dirt flying around.
Makeup. I'll be hitting makeup and costume.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll make it work.
And my last one is Henry. And for Aadil, Henry is they meet Henry and his brother Sam whilst they're out on the road, and they've just been sort of like surviving together out, not in any kind of community, but like roaming around and stuff. And Sam is sort of a little bit younger than Ellie, so maybe sort of 10, 11, 12, something like that. So Henry is probably in his 20s. And when I thought of Henry, I instantly thought of an actor, and I found out that he's 57.
LL Cool J.
Not LL Cool J, no. Again, I'm going to ruin his name, but I went with Harold Perrineau, who, another actor from Lost, who was Michael in Lost. But he's 57.
What's his first name? Spell that?
Harold.
Oh, Harold.
Harold.
Just Harold.
Harold Perrineau. Oh no, Perrineau. There we go. Harold Perrineau. Or just put Michael from Lost in.
Yeah.
So, Ben.
Oh god, yeah. Like when I was playing the game, I was like, "Is it based on him?"
Yes, yeah, exactly. But again, I think he could do a good job. He just needs to be about 30 years younger to represent that character a little bit. A lot of these characters could be a little bit older or a little bit younger. But I think for Henry, it's key to that character that he is a young man. That he doesn't have that kind of world knowledge about him. He kind of doesn't defer to Joel, but on occasion in the game he sort of looks to him for sort of like the way forward and stuff. But after that, I did think Donald Glover's just fucking fantastic in everything, so just give it to Donald Glover.
That would work.
Ben, can I just suggest a name for your casting
Of
reel
course,
here?
of course.
The Lost of Us. Almost got a spit take there.
That's good. That's very, very good. I like that.
So Ben just wants another Lost.
Yeah, I think Ben just misses Lost. I think that's the uptake here.
That isn't set on an island, just in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, I mean it's coming back on Disney Plus Star or whatever that extra thing
when you
have
say
to pay
it's
for.
coming back, do you mean?
Oh no, it's just being shown
having
again. Just being shown again.
Oh, okay, I thought you were like they're rebooting it. Now with 10 times more purgatory.
I mean, we could pull. I've just brought up the Lost characters. We could pull everyone out from Lost, couldn't we? Let's go with Hurley for Bill. We'll go with Locke for David. No, none of those characters.
I think it was the first season, or maybe it was even up to the second. And I was just like, what is this crap? And I was ducked out.
To be fair,
there was a polar bear, and I was like, this is a tropical island. What is a polar bear
to be
doing
fair,
here?
I also ducked out around about the second sort of series before kind of returning to it a little bit, but I really liked the first one.
I liked the first series. I thought the polar bear stuff was interesting in that it was trying to tell you that it wasn't just a regular old island.
Yeah, and I was like,
And then 3 episodes.
Reasonable explanation, and hey presto, people wasted like 9 years of their life.
Yeah. See, I gave up on it when they like season 2 came around, and they're like, but there's a whole other group of people that we didn't find. And it's like, oh, you guys don't know what the fuck you're doing, do you?
Oh.
Spoiler alert, they didn't.
Probably meant to be cancelled after like the first series, isn't it? And I'm just like, can somebody get the intern? Get the intern to write something.
Yeah.
Pull up the intern's fanfic.
That's it. And I mean, we'll just to finish out on, we could just go with Evangeline Lilly for Tess, can't we? Just to round out the Lost of Us. There we go. Almost every character cast from Lost. They need work, right?
You're
not
hired.
Evangeline Lilly, but most of them need work, right?
I don't know anything. I barely know Lost actor names, and I definitely don't know The Last of Us. So, but I did see a pun.
That's good. I'm glad you brought it up. Perfect. Let's finish that conversation.
Still doing my usual shit.
Let's move on. Let's move on from HBO's The Last of Us. Then there it is. It's cast out completely.
I don't mind that. I don't mind talking about it a bit more. If you have anything else to say, Ben.
No, I'm done. I'm done. There's lots of other characters, like Tommy's wife Maria, who again is
very sideline character.
Very sideline character in the first game. Comes back a little bit more in the second game. And I'm sure there's lots of other characters that you could sort of put people towards, but I think those are the main characters that are going to push the story through, really. Okay. And you know, some of them are characters that feel like they'd be their own self-contained episode, like Bill or like Henry and Sam. You know, David would probably be, you know, that episode kind of 8 and 9 2-parter for then the finale to come kind of afterwards, sort of thing. So there's lots of things that I think they can do on a sort of a 10 episode series to cover the whole of the first game, and hopefully that's it. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. They don't touch it. Just make this, let it sit there.
I hope Nolan North is an extra. Nolan North doing the Deadpool voice. I want him as an extra.
I mean, Nolan North's in everything, isn't he? So he probably will be. Yeah.
Talking about chimichangas and stuff.
Can I just, before we move fully away from the topic of The Last of Us show, can I ask what you want out of it? Like, we sort of touched on the beginning of our discussion, Ben, on like how people want this like slavish recreation, hence not getting mad that actors don't look like computer game characters. And yes, I know the PS4 isn't a computer game. Neither was a computer technically, but fuck off. Yeah. But like, so given that, and you obviously aren't one of these people, like, is there something you think would be a cool way of taking the cinematic narrative?
Yes, I think there could be lots of bits that they, you know, don't hit on areas of the game where you're doing mostly, you know, the action sort of stuff, and I hope it hits more in the idea of what the world is like, the relationships between characters, you know, the kind of like the conversations they have and the way that they live, rather than the action. That it will be in there, absolutely no doubt, because that is a big part of it, but I don't want every episode to be them running away from infected. You know,
I forgot there's infected.
Yeah, I mean, exactly, and there's obviously lots of fights with
and like makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
consistency.
But
Click effect.
there's lots of fights with people and stuff as well. But I kind of like it if, you know, the infected. We don't need sort of like the big boss fights that we get in the game. If like a clicker was the baddest thing that they kind of came up against, you know, and that's only revealed in, you know, like a midway point in the episode. I kind of want this to be about the journey more and the characters and the relationship that they bring. I think that's what TV can convey a little bit better than video games, that you can have in TV, or maybe just a little bit shot easier, those kind of like those quiet moments. Video games press and press and press and press. You know, we've only really seen something like The Last of Us Part 2, which give you a little bit more of those kind of down moments in between sorts of things, but still, that's kind of still giving you exposition and bits like that, whereas I think a TV show can linger a bit longer on those moments of quiet, because you don't have to push everything on quickly to get to the next action piece, to keep, you know, 50% of the people that have picked up your game who want all of that action to kind of keep going. I think a TV show has a much broader audience and can be a little bit more focused on the characterization and the conversation, the relationships and stuff. So I think that's what I'd like from it.
Yeah,
But
well,
who
I'd
knows
like
what?
Ellie to run out of cover, and just in complete eye line of, you know, the clickers, the enemies, the infected, and then nobody sees her. And then that's a twist in the TV show that she's actually invisible.
Perfect. They can pull an invisibility cloak from whatever game or show or, you know, wherever they want.
And it's The Sixth Sense, and Pedro Pascal sees dead people.
I mean, they'd get to the Fireflies thing and they're like, so where's this girl you're meant to bring us?
It's all in bed.
He's there. She's there. What are you talking about?
And it's actually the trauma from his past experiences.
Ooh. Are they going to hit that moment? Are they going to hit the opening of the Last of Us game as an episode?
I mean, that's like entire context for the game, so I hope they would.
But do you think it will be? Do you think it will be like B4B, or do you think we'll get introduced to characters and they'll do like a flashback?
Probably. Classic TV.
I don't want that.
Cool.
Pedro Pascal I recognise him in as an extra in this one Buffy episode, so that was interesting.
Oh, really?
Really?
Pedro Pascal, was in it for 5 minutes before he turned into a vampire. Yeah.
I didn't know.
He was in briefly. I was like, oh my god, that's Pedro Pascal. He looks so young. He looks like a baby, but yeah. Anyway.
Pedro Balmaceda played Eddie.
Mm-hmm. It was he was in, I think, just that one episode. He got vampired real quick.
Okay.
I was just like, oh my god, an actual actor.
Right, should we open some beers?
Yeah.
It was me.
I will
first.
try not to throw it everywhere around the room.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. I'm going to open up a To Øl beer. This is number 2 DIPA. On the front it just says the second double IPA from To Øl City. Explosively aromatic, fresh and fruity. It is 9%. There's tiny text everywhere. It's been brewed and it's dripping everywhere as well. It's been brewed and canned in To Øl City, which is what they call their big brewing space now, isn't it?
They literally made a city.
I don't get any ingredients. I don't know what's in this. That's fine. It's 9%. I'll open it up. Aadil.
Yes, me.
What are you going to be drinking now?
I'm going to be drinking the Holidays Hazelnut Stout from Harbour. It has barley, wheat, oats, lactose, and hazelnut. Aroma, chocolate, vanilla. Palate, hazelnut, creamy. Finish, long, nutty, and chocolate. It is a mild 4.8% in a 355ml can. Yep. Nice sweaty tin. I think you can see off the lights.
Yeah, mine's Mine is as well. I don't know. Kim's put the heating on. I'm baking. Lucy, you look like you've got a beer from Brew York.
I do indeed. And it's called the Matthew McConaughaze.
Oh,
Very-
nice.
And it's another pale. This time it's double dry hot, 6.2%. It's got Amarillo, Mosaic, and Sabro in it. Again, this is like orange writing on a cream can. Something. Doesn't matter.
It's good. It's good when it makes it so easy to read, isn't it?
Plus, I'm getting old, brewers. These tiny writing. It ain't what they used to be. Yeah, it's got some crap in it.
Perfect. What was it? It was like a bit lighter, was it?
No, this is a bit heavier, 6.2%
Okay.
compared to the 5.2 last time. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. Right. Obviously, now I'm drinking a dipper. It's a lot more thick. An old thick boy. A little bit of orange to it. A lot more orange, actually, than it's showing up on my camera. Had a little bit of head to it. Has that tropical but slightly dank kind of nose to it. Tropical fruit's coming through a lot more than that sort of dank note. But I know I'm going to drink this and it's just going to be like a big dank juice bomb. At least from the nose, that's what I'm expecting. We'll see. It's very flat. There's almost no carbonation to that at all. But it is a lot of juice. And it is a little dank. But I think that flatness to it, that lack of carbonation, may have taken something away from this a little bit. The best before date on it is June of this year, so there's still a reasonable amount of time on it. Not a huge amount. You know, this might have been brewed 8 months ago, something like that. If To Øl give a year on them, could have been brewed 2 months ago if they give 6 months on their beers. But it is definitely a little bit subdued. It's not a big kind of in-your-face juice bomb, which I think it should be. It wants to be. Like, I don't know whether it's just because of that extra time, which I'm assuming it's had extra time, sat on a shelf in the warm somewhere. Well, not at the moment, a bit cold at the moment, but sat on a shelf somewhere for X amount of months, not doing anything. I mean, it's nice. It just makes it a lot easier to drink and a lot softer to drink. You know, it doesn't have quite the body and sort of explosive flavour that I think, or at least I would expect, let's say, from a To Øl DIPA. But it's nice apart from that.
Yeah, I mean, if I trust anyone to make a decent dipper, To Øl would be on that list.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got a nice sort of set of flavours in there, a bit of passion fruit, maybe a tiny bit of mango in there as well. That lingers. It's nowhere near as dry as the West Coast, which I would kind of expect, but it sits for a nice while, and that fruit lingers in there as well. The dankness is very light, so it doesn't overpower anything and allows those fruits to kind of keep on through. So yeah, nice, soft, easy.
Nice.
Slight hint of the alcohol, not much, a very, very slight hint, but that's it. So yeah, Aadil, we'll come to you.
Hey,
Beer number 2.
Yeah, it had a bit of a head that's like all gone now, right? You've got it's slight lacing. It's quite thin. I think it's a 4.8% stout, so it's not surprising that nothing clings. It has a boozy boozier nose, which I think is actually just the hazelnut and the chocolatiness, just giving it more depth, making it feel like, I think it's actually just sweet, but making it nose like sort of more alcoholic sweet.
Yeah.
So it is very thin. My worry about it with a 4.8%, the way it's sloshed in the glass. Having said that, it's got quite a strong nutty, chocolatey stout taste. The hazelnut's there, but it's luckily pulled back just enough to allow the chocolatey, maltier notes to come through. So it's not like, am I drinking the inside of a Ferrero Rocher? Like it's not, or like Nutella or something. It's like, yes, this is hazelnut and chocolatey, but there's some depth there, there's some maltiness, and that nuttiness lingers.
Yeah.
The lactose, I think they said they were. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because there's a sweetness that just sits there on the bottom, bringing everything kind of together. I like all the parts of the taste curve, but I kind of wish it was like a step above where it's at, kind of at each hit. So it's really nice. It's a really light stout. This is a stout you could session, I think, easily because it's thin, because the taste is a little more subdued but interesting. So I actually really commend them on making it sort of well-rounded to the same spot instead of trying to like cheat a boozier beer out of a lighter ABV or cheat like focus too much on like say the sweetness and then like hazelnut Nutella chocolatey thing, and in fact it's actually quite well rounded for a hazelnut stout. It's got the lactose, it's got the hazelnut, it's got chocolatey notes, but it's not like drinking chocolate or anything like that.
Okay.
And I think that's actually helped by being more subdued, that you're not getting those notes too harshly. I like that the finish, what lingers is that lactose and a little bit of that nuttiness. So you could easily put like I have taken another sip for a while, you could easily just let it linger and enjoy that finish, because the finish is quite long, it's just quite weak. And it's only those two notes. The rest is long gone, but those two notes last a really long time. It wasn't a Beer 52 box recently, I think. Did either of you get it?
Yes, I think I have drunk this. I think.
Any thoughts?
No.
Was it part of one of your mega stout days?
It might have been one of my big stout days, yeah.
Yeah. No worries.
The way you said, "Oh no," it reminds me of that Simpsons when Hank Scorpio pulling the sugar out of his pockets. And he's like, "Oh, no."
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Lucy, we'll come
I'm
to you
afraid.
for the Brew York.
I'm afraid of it. I
Oh.
can see it in my camera, and
Oh yeah. Oh okay. Yes.
if you have someone in your life who's like not a fan of beer and you just want to introduce them to beer, don't give them this one. Because I thought the last one looked like pond water. This looks like swamp bayou water with just like it had quite a large thick head as well, and like sediment on the bottom of a sandbank. But yeah, it's there's no colour to describe this other than your toilet was blocked.
Why? Wasn't expecting that turn of phrase.
If anyone's been watching the
Stream.
the Netflix documentary on the Cecil Hotel, then they would have seen that color of water in a couple of episodes. So
It smells fruity.
I won't say what that relates to, but I'm good.
That's got a fruity smell. I'm trying to pick out the fruit. It smells almost like guava.
Ooh.
Yeah, very nice.
A bit of guava.
Nice fruity smell.
Nice. At least the smell wasn't off-putting.
That would have been even worse. It doesn't taste as bad as it looks, which is good. But not sure if it tastes of anything good though.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'd prefer it if it was just awful. So at least there'd be something to talk about.
I mean, it's such an odd colour.
But there's nothing off about the beer
Mm.
where, or it might have expired or something. Yeah, this was canned 9th of December.
Wow. Okay.
Recent.
Mm.
It's got a quite watery texture like the last one. There's barely any carbonation. It's very flat. You're getting a bit of that fruit, but I don't know what fruit it is. I'll try and see if there's anything on the back of the can if you can actually read it.
You can read the orange text.
Yeah. It says, all right.
Excellent.
Don't be dazed, don't be confused. Matthew enjoyed our Dame Judy Quench, which was their previous beer or something, on the Graham Norton sofa. Okay. So we thought he deserved a little tongue-in-cheek tribute of his own, made with I don't know. Some IPA yeast is made up. I don't know what's going on with this beer to be. What is it? As I say, I'm picking out guava, which is not a fruit that you usually come across when drinking beer, and there's nothing going on. Like, if I was, I mean, I don't know what Matthew McConaughaze, what his signature beer would taste like.
Mud.
Obviously, yeah.
Is he from Texas?
He is, but also he stars in the movie Mud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's nothing defining about this beer apart from the look of it. I love the look of it, but the taste is
just beer.
Not really beer. It's not even beer. It's not really got much carbonation to it. It hasn't got a nice fruity taste. Like, as I say, you're getting a hint of guava, but you're not really getting anything else. It's not overly fruity or punchy, or there's not really any bitterness to it. It's just a weird thing. I might need a steady rolling man after this podcast.
That's fair.
Fair.
That's fair. It seems from the beers you've had, it's going to be the way of the night, isn't it?
Yeah,
Hit
just
something you know.
Yeah, because even anyway, I love Brew York. Like,
yeah,
they make some of the, like, oh gosh, what was it? I had beer called Brownie Pints. I mean, they make better than most other people, and it's just like that beer was gorgeous. Like, gave it a 5 out of 5 on tap because it's just incredible beer. Yeah, that's not. I think, on hindsight, I think Brew York's IPAs and their pales and stuff like that, I think I'm not too enamoured with them most of the time. I think it's their stouts for me.
Yes,
like,
definitely.
I'd be like, they're probably like top 5 in terms of their stouts that they make. They may even be number 1 today because I can't even think of anyone else. But yeah, just not doing it for me if they're pales.
Yeah, it's fair.
I would die on a hill saying that they make the best stouts in the country.
Ooh.
So.
Ooh. Nice. It's a good point. A good point to just end on our beers then, and launch back
Yorkshire
into
River. They got that out of, but yeah.
Let's launch back into our topics then. We are going to cut off from Twitch because we've got some games we're going to talk about for our Friday podcast release, which are embargoed. So thanks for joining us, everyone on the Twitch. We've enjoyed these beers. Go to outlives.net, hang out there, see what we're doing, see what stuff, and listen to the podcast on Friday, or go to YouTube to see us. But we'll catch you on Twitch next week. Thanks.
Yep.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Stop streaming,
Yes.
but not stopped recording,
Not stopped
because
recording.
you're gonna just cut this bit. Hold on, let me just throw another beer around the house. Like, I've been a little spacey today, but it's been a long time since I've reached for a beer through itself.
Yes, just.
Like, I literally just went, like, here's the beer. I just went.
It happens. It happens. Right, I'll come back in on.
My desk looks clean because I had to
You wiped
clean it. I think the frame of the TV still has some liquid in it. Ugh. I don't know how
Right.
to deal with that.
I'm coming back in 3 seconds. So, Aadil, we'll cut to you for hopefully a game that you've been playing, which has been embargoed, which we'll all be talking about because it's a classic, an absolute classic
Yes,
game.
that game.
Thomas
That game.
Was alone.
Yes.
Is this your first time?
No, I've played Thomas Was Alone before. I didn't quite finish it. I got to around 8.4, I think,
Okay.
today, just because I had some other things going on that sort of took time
Pretty
in a way
fun.
that I didn't realize.
It's very.
Hmm?
The,
It's almost all the game, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I think it goes to what, 10?
Hmm.
10 tens?
Have you got to like the gravity switching part yet?
I got to the point where Thomas and them are gone, and now all the AIs are jumping through hoops and bells and getting powers through clouds, basically.
Little ones.
Yeah.
The lemmings.
So we got the code from the publisher for the Switch port,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what
Great.
prompted this.
On Switch. It's crazy that it's not already on Switch, but yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked, to be honest.
Yeah.
What a good game. It plays great on the Switch.
Who would know?
Yeah, I mean, re-Switch port. So when I was playing Hades, for example, I noticed a big difference between playing it in handheld and playing with my Pro controller.
Uh-huh.
I could feel the difference between the control mechanisms, inputs. I think this game was great with the Joy-Cons. I wanted to play it sort of curled up in bed in the cold. Everything felt tight enough that it didn't matter. I mean, I didn't actually end up. I was going to try it on the big screen, but I didn't get around to it. Mostly because I realized it didn't matter. Like even if it was tight enough, I could get through everything. Nothing felt loose. So, like, it's not like it would get tighter, if that makes sense. So it would just be like, is it as good on the Pro controller as the Joy-Cons? Well, probably, because the Pro controller is a better input device.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a shapy platformer. For those of you who don't know,
Yeah, just a fundamental puzzle platformer. It's like, but it has a decent little bit of story. So
Yeah,
got that
it's got a little charm to it, I think.
I think that's the entirety of why you want to play this game. There's
I
a
like
couple.
Why-
So I mean, that's why I was sad I didn't end up finishing it, because I remember some bits being like, I'm wrinkling my brain. How do I do this? And I mean, partly through memory, but also, I mean, the first, I think, 5 worlds are very straightforward, to the point where I actually have to say, having gone through it before and sort of know the beats of the narrative, there's a bit of a lull. Maybe 3 or 4. Like, when I say worlds, it's like version numbers, right? So you start with like is it not 0.1 to 1.0, or is it 1.1? It doesn't matter. A numbering system that goes 1 point and 1.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it'll not go up a number. And when you have like the 5 different shapes, like, and you're just like, there's like a handful of levels that are just like, make them all go around, and like, you're like, cool. Well, I've already solved this puzzle of the like Chris, little orange boy, needs to climb on to Thomas before he can get onto John, and he'll need all of them to, like, we need to make a little staircase. It's like, okay, now I'm just doing all these little puzzles together, but not in a like, wait, which one do I know? It's like, I know exactly, like, I look at this level and I know exactly what I need to do, and then it's just a pain in the ass of moving the things around. And I could, like, it's unfortunate because, like, I was bored, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, the plot's not so new, the music's great, the music's fantastic, but like, going back to this game, it was like, oh, I don't want to do this level. This level's not challenging, it's not doing much, and all the plot. Sorry, let me go back a step. Almost the entire plot is done through this, like, voiceover narrator who sometimes speak for the various blocks, like their thoughts, and sometimes just sort of describes what they're doing. It's almost always the first moves in a level. Not quite right away, but usually, like, you hit a threshold hitbox somewhere in the level, and it'll be like, and then Chris felt this way, or whatever. Most of the time, it's just like level starts, some talking, and maybe there's a quick line in the middle. But for the most part, like, if you wanted to just live through the plot of the game, it's just starting each level, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is not like a critique, it's just like where it is. So when you couple that with, I've been here before, and this level is actually going to take a couple minutes, but it's a couple of minutes that are completely transparent to me, and they're not even finicky platforming. Like, it's just the moving, because you have 5 shapes to control. You hit your shoulder buttons, L and R, to, like, rotate through the shapes.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of, like, ferrying people back and forth, and it's like, and there wasn't a puzzle there. It was just doing it. Once that passed, the game picked up again, and I was fine. But there was definitely this lull. And then obviously, I guess your mileage will vary with some of the other levels. Maybe other people can see the solutions right away. But this was definitely a couple levels where it's mostly just moving people from left to right, roughly, like beginning of the stage to end of the stage, and there's not like you have to do it in this magic order, otherwise everything will break. Having said that, I forgot how fun the game was in its finickiness when you have both James and Thomas. James being the guy who has inverted gravity, and Thomas being regular, and James is the same size as Thomas, same jump speed. So, like, and so often the levels were like x-axis mirrors, but you'd have to, like, trip a switch or do this other thing for one to let the other through, and so you were having to think of the level upside down and right side up constantly.
Yeah.
And then there are moments in the game where, because of their gravity, they will cling to each other because they're falling into each other. But one of the interesting mechanics that can seem annoying, but I think is really integral to how much you could appreciate how to solve these puzzles, is when a shape is on a shape, you can kind of ferry them around and they ride on top of you. Except sometimes, like with the gravity situation, where you'll just sort of walk and they'll go away. So
or when you're the bouncing, when you're on the bouncing block as well.
One, because they're bouncing, they hit you and then they go up, and if you go to the right, they drop down again. And so what you have to do is kind of switch between the two shapes and move them in parallel. And actually, to do the James Thomas interactions quickly, you're basically like, I'm on James, I move, 4 pixels to the right, switch to Thomas, move 4 pixels to the right, switch to, but of course, like, so that they move in tandem while they're stuck to each other, until you get to the point where you can free one of them or jump off of one of them or swap spots, like purposely run off, and then they separate into the different parts of the level. But there's, like, spots, and I want to say it's around level 5 or 6, I think, where there's like multiple spots where you have to do this, like, it could be slow or quick, but like this, I'm going to move a bit, then I'm going to have to switch and move a bit, then I'm going to move a bit, then switch, because they have to stay together across kind of empty space. And then in order to hit the next part of the puzzle, one of them has to jump, and then the other one will fall into them. And you sort of go up and or down in the space of the level based on them being able to cling to each other. And I think that was my favorite mechanic of the game, because it made you think in multiple directions. They were similar enough shapes that it wasn't too difficult to flip your thinking because they both had the same range. But they had to work together, and you had to figure out that it mattered that you only moved a bit and then another bit, and it really made you feel like you were working as a team.
Yeah, where you getting one down to his place, and
yeah.
It's just remembering to jump as the right character, though, isn't it? Like if you.
Oh, and that's why I bring it up, because like if you did it perfectly, it'd be like me. But most of the time, it's like, fuck, I gotta go back and like redo it. But that felt like that's the opposite of that like lull I was feeling in World 3, where it's like I kind of think I need to do this thing. I'm still not sure because it's like off screen where I need to go. But I'm pretty sure I need to do this, and actually, it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
And so I need to like master the skill, and I think that type of puzzling, at least up until this point, didn't overstay its welcome. So like there were a few spots where you really need to do that. There's a few spots where you need to do like the tandem jumping with the James and Thomas to like move the pair of them up or down. But that was it. It wasn't like suddenly added into the middle of a 7-people grid or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about the Switch port, and then I'll let you guys actually talk, is I wish, and this is actually just, maybe I just didn't notice it before, but of course you have the, in the bottom right corner, right, it has the like little color swatches of the various characters who are in the game, and L1 goes to the left, R1 goes to the right. But I think maybe it was because I was trying to finish it kind of quicker, because I was like, oh, this other thing came up. I'm not sure I can finish this 3 or 4 hour game today like I wanted to for recording. And I noticed that my brain kept wanting to scroll from their physical location left and right, like the relative left and right location, because it was L1, R1, but it's still just the order in the bottom corner.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So like, especially when you're trying to do this finicky things, you're like, oh, that guy's to the left, I'll just hit left. No, that's not what you're doing. You're now over there on the other side of the map, because he was to the right in the initial ordering.
Yeah, that's the issue I find playing on control. Does the Switch not have touch where you could switch between them, or is that an option?
Didn't even think about touching the screen, Lucy. Because I'm literally going to grab it right now.
I don't know if that was an option on Vita, but Switch, a lot of the times they don't implement that the touch functionality, which is strange, especially when you have stuff like point and clicks. It's like this would be immensely helpful, but they don't do it. But,
yeah.
So Aadil's live testing.
No,
hey, it's the best way to review something, right?
I'm just pounding the screen and nothing's happening.
Typical. They never usually implement these things when they'd be so very useful.
I'm surprised that you are the advocate for touch controls. I guess motion controls are the ones you hate. Never mind. I'm just being dumb.
I'm just thinking that if they had it on Vita, because that's where I played it, and I can't remember.
How good would Thomas Was Alone be if it had motion controls in a way that you were holding your Switch and you tilted from side to side to kind of move them across the screen, and I don't know, lifted it to jump them, and you know, whatever motion control thing there would be, but like it would be a completely different way to play that game, right?
As long as you can turn it off.
There we go.
That's fair.
That's the Lucy I know.
As long as you can turn it off, it'd be fine. If you wanted to play in that absurd way, but yeah. Anything else, Aadil? Any?
I mean, those were the big thoughts I had, which were basically wanting to say something about the actual port, and the couple that like being early in the game, being kind of bored surprised me, because I really loved the game when it came out. When I first played it, I
agree with you. Like, I've played that game over 10 times probably on multiple different systems, and I agree with you. Some of those those middle levels do become a bit tedious when you're right, Aadil, you are mostly there on subsequent playthroughs just for the whole whimsy of it and Danny Wallace's narration story. And yeah, some of those middle levels can get a bit slow, get a bit tedious once you know what you're doing, once you've played it enough times, because it is bite-sized enough where I did return to it probably once a year for a couple. So I hadn't in a while, but yeah, maybe I might get that Switch version when it's like on sale. Everything on it, I'm like Wii U.
Nice.
And mobile.
What was your experience with it, Ben?
So I I bought it on Steam this week. I don't know where I played this game, right? So I looked at my Steam library, like, I don't have Thomas Was Alone Here. I looked at my PlayStation, like, I don't have Thomas Was Alone Here.
It might have been a Plus game.
What?
Did you ever let your Plus lapse or something?
So it might have been a Plus game because I've switched between two different accounts on Plus games.
Yeah.
So a lot of my previous Plus games were on a different account because that was the master, and then this was the sub. No, that's not right. That was a sub account, and then I could turn the one that I had into a master account. So that's now my Plus one. So it might have been on PlayStation, but I don't know. But it was on Steam for like £3 during the Lunar sale, or whatever they called this Chinese New Year based sale. So I picked it up and started through again, and I didn't have that sort of lull. So I think I've just got into the 4th set of puzzles. So I'm at 4.1, and through sort of the through that 3-point set of 10 sort of puzzles, I didn't kind of have that lull, but that might be because I've only played it once. Unlike Lucy, I haven't returned to it. I played through it once when I got it, like, who knows?
In a dream.
Yeah. But maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. So yeah, I think I'm experiencing it fresh enough to not sort of feel that. But there were a lot of times where I'm like, I instantly know what to do. So there was at least some muscle memory or just memory of being like, I know this, and doing it. And I felt that some of those times, especially in the initial stages, you get to the end before the narration's finished. And so I just sort of like, I enjoy the narration, so I'll just sit just before the end and wait for it to play out, and then go on.
Well.
Yeah.
Where you're just like powering through, and you're like, oh, he's talking.
Yeah.
And you do this like mid-air wobble. Where like, I'm jumping, it's gonna be a perfect landing. Oh no, pull away. There is something extremely satisfying when you get like a jump timed perfectly into the slot to the end of the level, versus being like, meh, 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 meh. And there's some really good rewarding feelings of those levels. Like there's some where you like have to bounce to finish the level because the last slot is midair.
Yes.
And it just makes you feel like you did the thing.
Like Pennsylvania, jump in the air with the whip.
Yeah.
Glowing up. Freeze frame.
I think it goes for that, doesn't it? It goes for those kind of like gratifying platformer moments. Like that's what it wants you to feel. It wants you to feel gratified by completing these levels and by doing these things. And apart from your experience of this sort of lull in the middle, like I think it achieves that through most of the individual levels, really, that it does mix it up enough and introduces things on that nice little kind of like drip fed sort of way that it changes it up enough as you play through to keep it fresh enough to keep you wanting to go through to see what the next thing will be, to see what the kind of the next challenge and what the next set of, or what the next like block will be, and what they can do, sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good way to you haven't quite got there, but there's there's a series of levels where when they first introduce it, it's basically, so you have those like buttons, right? Or switches, and they're white, and then later in the game they become color coded, so a certain block has to like trip them.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And then at a certain point in the game, you've got like a couple of characters, and there's a part where I thought I might get bored, but I didn't, or I was like, oh, I see how this is going. But it was fine because the gameplay, it was fluid enough. Pun mildly intended, because it was a water lowering level. But it was basically John and Claire, I think. Claire's the big swimming block, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And it was just the two of them, and you're going down the level, and you're like, now what do I do? John's stuck on Claire, and then you see, oh, actually, since the last change to the level, a little blue switch has appeared on the corner. So Claire swims over and hits it, and then the water drops some. But now instead, John has to jump up and hit a thing, and it's actually just not quite alternating. It's just like looking for the switch that literally isn't there until the previous switch gets hit to kind of drop you to navigate the level. And you'd think that's like too simplistic, but the way you hit the switch is just varied enough, and the level's just short enough that you are still mostly coasting off of the notion of teamwork and switching. And I think maybe that's my favorite type of level. Same thing with the John and Thomas, or not John, James and Thomas levels. Now that I think about it, is when I have to work in tandem, but I only have 2 or 3 moving parts, so I can feel like I can do it dynamically. So I feel like they're constantly moving, not fighting with which one am I trying to switch to. Oh, like a lot of the puzzles end up being like, this person does their thing for half the level, then we forget about them, and then we come back before, and that's good because it allows you to use multiple powers, but at the same time you don't ever feel like you're fully controlling them all as much as you do in those 2 to 3 like AIs in your control. I think that's, for me, that's the sweet spot of, I know exactly what's going on, I have to switch between them, I have to be dynamic, but I only have to remember sort of a couple of things, and the game's only asking me to do a couple of things, and it's like the design is smart enough to know that when they escalate to like more, they can't they can't have the puzzles be like quick switching ones, if that makes sense. And I guess maybe it's just I like the pacing of those more finicky quick switching type puzzles in the game than the like send 5 tendrils out and then retreat and then figure out what you need to do next in which order. So that's my personal.
No, I agree with that. I think that the game is strongest when it's only focusing on a couple of characters and making a slightly more complex run through when you only have a couple of things to work with, rather than it being almost this sort of very set puzzle. It's like you have 5 things, move this one, do X, move this one, do Y, move this one, do Z, move this one, do A, move this one, do B, and you're finished. I think it works better when you only have 2 or 3 parts to move and the extent of the abilities of those parts, but it's dynamic enough in that, I've got to this point with this one, I know I now need to switch and move along with this, but actually that's then made me switch back to this character to do something, and then maybe I can switch down to this one. I think that is where it is best. So, Lucy, what about you? What do you have a preference on these sort of levels? Or?
No, I agree with Aadil more in that there is a lull of those some of those levels where it is just okay. I'm moving this character from A to B rather than puzzle solving. I haven't played the game in a while, but I know that. I think I just really enjoy that the puzzle platforming takes a back seat for me, which is unusual because I really like platformers. A lot of it is that the interaction in between like the characters and just giving those characters like a personality, even though they're just little cubes and shapes. And it's greater than the sum of its parts. Probably because there's just been so many more platformers since that do things better than Thomas Was Alone. It's still a great feeling game to go back to even now, but I think just still the wrappings, the audio, the dialogue, and just that interconnection between the characters. I really love like how Chris is the jealous one and like Claire is, body conscious, and Thomas just, he couldn't care about anything. Thomas is just that Thomas was alone because Thomas is just vacant and he doesn't even notice what's going on around him. So.
Thomas is just general white protagonist, isn't he? Like in every other video game, he is alone because it is only him moving through a set of spaces irrelevant of anyone else.
I am sad that they didn't continue to genre bend in the Thomas Was Alone universe, like make a little cover shooter.
That's Thomas Was Alone too.
Yeah.
8 days in Fallujah.
Yowza. I think you mean that's Thomas Clancy TM Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Ooh. Very good. Very good. I just looked. I couldn't remember the date that Thomas Was Alone originally came out. It's 2012.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I didn't play it for many years after because I first played it Vita and hold on, when did the Vita come out? Actually, I don't even know.
Fuck knows.
Yeah, 2011. So I must have played it. Who cares? Anyway, the Vita's dead now. Good platform, but yeah, I'll always have memories of playing Thomas Was Alone on Vita.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Good. Fond memories.
Yes, very fond memories. And I remember the day when it came to Xbox, I was like, on a Friday, I was like, I'm going to finish work, I'm going to go home and nerd out, eat some food, and play Thomas Was Alone.
Nice.
No time for people and social things. Remember when those things were a thing? Didn't do them then, don't do them now, it's fine. I have squares for friends.
That's all you need.
Yes.
That's it.
And I meant you too. You two are square.
That's true. We are. Absolutely. Goddamn fucking nerds.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our chat on Thomas Was Alone.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy, I fear that we're right towards the end of the episode for us to come to you for your extended thoughts on the game that you'd like to talk about, but maybe we can just get some initial kind of thoughts before you talk about it next week, because I know at the moment we're embargoed, which is why we've cut, but you can give some thoughts. Actually, you're only embargoed until after this will go out on Friday anyway, so you can talk about what you like. Tell us what you
like. You're right though. It's in thoughts because I'm not. I don't know how many chapters it has, but I'm only on the second one, so it is initial thoughts right now, and we'll probably talk about it more next week. Cool. Yeah, it's a game called Mutropolis, Mutropolis, and it is a point-and-click adventure game. As with most point-and-clicks nowadays, they always say, look, we're inspired by the LucasArts point-and-click games, and the art style is actually more like Broken Age from Double, which obviously had its roots in LucasArts games, but yeah, it's got a really nice art style. Hand-drawn art style. It's very pretty. I'm very early on in the game, so the plot is still in the early starts, of unraveling. But it's a game that's set in the future. It's very, a very grounded future where everything looks like, okay, it could be present time. And basically, you play as a role of a archaeologist, and him and his expedition. That's the first act of the game. They uncover this it's like mural that says Mutropolis, and it's sort of like the city of Atlantis somewhere. It's like, where is this? What's the whole deal about this? You know, we want to uncover the treasure there and stuff like that. And I think from what I can glean, Mutropolis is somewhere that is basically, you know, our modern day version of Earth, and it's like, you know, something happened, this cataclysm. I think they've only just like touched upon that, so I'll be interested to see what actually happened to modern day life as we know it. But yeah, basically, you know, doing archaeological digs to find stuff that is in our present time. Yes, the expedition goes wrong in a sense where the lead of the expedition gets kidnapped and unrolls chapter 2, which is where I am, and you're having to basically get a vehicle, supplies, stuff like that to go out and find the leader of the expedition, because he's missing and nobody knows why. And that's where I am in the game. I'm trying to get out of my lab, this facility where these archaeologists work, and try and go find the leader of the expedition and try and get the story moving. And yeah, it's been I wouldn't call it a slog, but it's been tough going. Like, the devs, very kind of them to send over, and the publisher to send over a copy. And they were saying, if you get stuck, we can give you a walkthrough, and just give it a walkthrough with please. Because it is very much one of those games where it's like, okay, we're going back to very old school levels of point and click. Not so bad where puzzles are so obtuse and just impossible to figure out. I have been slowly figuring things out in this game, but what I don't like about it is that there's too many red herrings in it. Yeah.
Like the fishing minigame?
Not so far. There's no fishing. There probably will be, to be honest. But
that's the best part of Hades.
I've not done that. I haven't got the crystal or whatever you need to do that. Anyway,
it's not the best part of Hades. I'm lying to you.
Good. Because I'd be surprised and shocked and disappointed if it was. Yeah, it's the puzzles are, as I say, there's too many red herrings. You have your infantry, you have your things where you can combine in your infantry. It's very classic in that sense, but it's like, oh, you find this one item, you think, okay, it's going to be able to, it's going to let me do this, which is like the sensible thing. Like, oh, okay, I have a piece of rope that I need untying. Okay, let me just stab this screwdriver through it and not this thing. But it's like, no, you need to you use something very specific to do that, and it's like, okay, I found a screwdriver. You need a flathead screwdriver. You find a screwdriver. You're like, okay, cool. Let me use a screwdriver.
Flathead?
It's not a flathead one, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to somehow flatten this. But there's also screwdriver.
Oh.
There's also some screwdriver on this lady's desk, and you're like, could I swap this screwdriver? She's got a flathead. I just have a Phillips one. Could I swap it? And it's just like, it sort of gives you that. It sort of gives you a slight hint that maybe that could be the thingy, or it's like, oh, I have some dye. Maybe I could, spray paint the screwdriver and switch it with hers. But it's like, no, that screwdriver on her desk is literally just a red herring. It's like, you interact with that at all. And it's like, there's so many instances of that, and it's just like...
Oh, that's really infuriating.
Yeah, it has been with a lot of things, but I think it gives you enough... I have been getting through it, so it's obviously given me enough, it's given me kernels of hints in the dialogue and stuff like that, so...
Yeah, it's not enough rope to hang yourself, just enough rope to be like... Wait, am I climbing something? Yeah.
So, yeah, it's hard going at the moment, and I'm not finding the dialogue that amusing. I think it's trying to be funny, but
that's the worst.
There are sometimes I've chuckled, but overall, the jokes have just been like, woof, over my head. But
Wait, are they over your head, or are they just not good enough to make you laugh?
Yeah, good enough to make me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah, those are very different things, Lucy.
Yeah.
One is self-effacing,
I
and the other is condemning.
Yes, you're very right. I understood the jokes. I just didn't laugh at them. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going with it. Especially when walkthroughs get out there, I might even cave and ask the publisher. It's like, help me.
Yeah.
Because there is some part of that, like figuring it out and bashing your head against the wall, that does take me back. Sometimes it is nice to play a point and click pre-release, just to feel like, okay, I figured that out, because you don't get that anymore. It's like you have these walkthroughs, at the push of a button. So it's been nice, and it's like, as I say, they're not, like Gabriel Knight levels of cruel. They do have, the solutions do have, some of them are grounded and make sense. So yeah, I'm going to keep going through it. I'm interested. I'm intrigued enough in the plot, and I think the art style is great. So yeah,
nice. Well, we can return to it next week for further thoughts.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have finished it or not, I know you're not one to kind of slog through something if you're not really feeling it. I guess if you get to a point where you're like, I need a walkthrough, but I'm not that fussed whether I finish it or not, you'll just drop it and not really worry.
I think this is a game where it's like I'm enjoying it enough, and I think it is all based in that, like, okay, so some of these are red herrings. It's like, maybe if I had more of the time, I'd be like happy to go through. But I think that's most of where my frustration lies. If I just had a walkthrough and it was like, yeah, okay, I've tried my best at this. Here I go. Then it's like, so that wouldn't be a problem. So it's weird. It's weird how that is less of a problem. It's still a kind of design flaw, but it's less of a problem now, because we have the internet. So yeah, but as I say, there's enough drawing me in. I'm enjoying it enough to, like, if I was bashing my head against the wall and I wasn't enjoying it, I wouldn't have even come on the podcast to speak of it. So I'm enjoying enough about it where it's like, I will continue bashing my head against the wall, because it's good enough to do that for it. So.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's out on Thursday.
Nice.
18th. So yesterday, if you're listening to this.
Good. A good place to finish for us this week, then. Let's talk about the beers that we have drank. As I cracked open first, I will lead. I think I'm going to pick the Duration Sweeping Coast, which was the West Coast Pale Ale.
How long did it last for you?
What
was the duration you drank?
My.
Oh boy! Just to see your face.
To be fair, it did go back very quickly. It went back a lot quicker than the To Øl. I think I just preferred the flavour combination and the flow of the Sweeping Coast than I did to the number 2 double IPA. And I don't know whether that's because I was expecting a bit more from the double IPA, whether I've got it in my mind that there should be a bigger feel to this, that there is something more from it. But the West Coast Pale did exactly what I expected of a West Coast Pale. It gave me some nice citrusy fruit. It was nice and piney, light, because it's a very light sort of pale. But it worked very, very well, and it flowed very well through those flavours. Whereas the Dipper was sort of like, here's some stuff, this is what it is, and that was it, and kind of didn't leave me cold, but left me wanting just something else to it, to lift it above, not even just standard Dipper, but to lift it above kind of just fruity dank beer. It just needed a bit more to it, and that's not to take anything away from the Swooping Coast from Duration. Not to say it wins by default because the other beer didn't sort of build up. It was a nice beer that flowed very well, as I said, and had good flavours. So that's my pick for this week. And as a 4.8 beer, it felt a little bit bigger. So if you wanted to sort of session this and you had a 4 or 6 pack of this, you could very easily just only get through maybe 3 on an evening because it feels just that little bit bigger, which is nice. So yeah, the Duration Swooping Coast for me this week.
Nice.
Aadil, how about you?
I drank some beer. Well, I drank a bit of a beer through a beer, and then drank a little bit more of a beer. It's actually tricky because it turns out I was kind of in the mood for the Throne beer. But the Metamorphosis kind of didn't do anything. It just was an IPA, and I wanted an IPA.
Sure.
Versus the Hollow Days Hazelnut Stout from Harbour Brewing was like 4.8% for a hazelnut stout. The lactose helped sort of round it out. It was a really well balanced beer. I think it's the better beer.
Okay.
So it's going to be that one, even though I enjoyed the other one more, just because I recognize it's sort of really well crafted. It also it hits the thing that I've been complaining about for me ever, which is, oh boy, do I not really like low ABV stouts for some reason. Actually, this one is great, and it's great in the niche of low ABV stout. I think one of the problems is we often get them that they're trying to punch above the weight that they can do with the low ABV, and this was just like, hey, if it's 4.8%, let's just make sure everything is balanced. That means sort of not being more boisterous or in your face. So the hazelnut's not too nutty, but there's nutty notes. There's some chocolatey notes. It's sweet all the way through thanks to the lactose that helps round out the lack of the sort of alcohol sweetness that comes with a boozier stout. It's a really well-rounded beer. Like I said, I could have 2 or 3 at a place. It has enough of a finish, though I wish the finish was a little had more depth. That's just one of those things you don't get out of a sort of sub 5% beer anyway, roughly. And the 6.7% Metamorphosis was like, okay, it has a long finish, but half of that finish is really boring. Most of the finish is kind of boring, and like I said, my problem with that was it was so front loaded taste curve that there were interesting things and they kind of left for a long time. So it didn't make. I was reaching for it sort of because I wanted to taste those things that were too quick, and that's all. Just like it's one of my standard litmus tests when I feel like the beer is forcing me to have more to enjoy it. And it was weird because it had a longer finish. It's just like the interesting taste and the balance was not near that time. So it's a Hollow Days Hazelnut Stout for me.
Nice, good. And Lucy, I see you've just nailed the last of the Brew York.
Yeah, speaking of slogs, that certainly was. That Brew York beer looked like dirty dishwater and didn't taste much better. So yeah, it's the You Now Here Now You from Free Hills. Didn't think that would be the one to win this week, especially after tasting it, but it was far more of a beer, albeit a not greatly balanced one. It was much better beer than the Matthew McConaughaze, which only has its name to go for, going for it really. Even Matthew McConaughey has more substance than that. Even back when he just did rom-coms. But odd one for Brew York. I love them as a brewery. I'll always try something different from them, but yeah, I think it's their stouts which I'd recommend from them. But yeah, Free Hills one. It grew on me as time went on. I think I became accustomed to the quite strong bitterness that it had. So yeah, Free Hills wins this week.
Good, cool, fair. So there are our beers. They are all of the games that we've been playing. If you want to talk to us about what you are drinking or what you are playing, you can do that in lots of different ways. We are at TankedUpCast on Twitter and on Instagram. We are Out of Lives also on Twitter and over on the YouTube, where you may be watching this. And if you are, drop us a little like, drop us a subscribe, comment on one of our videos, let us know. Comment on one of, I'm trying to talk too fast. Comment on one of our videos and let us know what you're drinking, or if you've enjoyed any of the beers that we have drank this evening. What else is there? I'm thrown off now. Go to the Facebook page. Come and join us in our Discord server, and just chat to us. Come and have fun. Get involved. Converse. Play some games with us occasionally, if you want to. We throw out there on the Discord that we're going to be playing some stuff, and over on the Twitter as well, when we're going to be playing things kind of online, if you want to join us. But you can join us every week as a passive participant, listening to what we talk about here on Tanked Up. Or you can join us for Geek Out Weekly. Fuck, I'm sorry to talk too fast. Geek Out Weekly on every Monday on Twitch, or then dropping normally on a Wednesday on the podcast service of your choice, or over on YouTube. Go to outoflives.net to read all of the articles and everything else, and to enjoy the other content that we put out. That's probably everything. I should stop there because I'm perfing constantly all over the shop.
Review, share with friends.
Yeah, those sorts of things. I'm Ratnover_47.
Ding that dong. Yeah.
Ding that dong. Lucy is Juicy Lucy. Aadil is at the Omniarch. Come and chat to us. We've been tanked up.
I'm gonna be a real gamer tomorrow.
Why?
So next week when you see this, I'm gonna be a real gamer.
Why? What are you doing?
Got a gaming chair.
Oh, I'm so jealous. So stay tuned for that. But also, recognizing we signed off, so I'll just say bye.
Bye.
www.outoflives.net